going to Game 3, Mathers versus Jim Davis.
Shuffling up still, so we'll get to see the whole game. Jim definitely would love to have a Stony Silence in the opener. In general, just looking for some counter spells, though. Because of Scrap Trawler, Path to Exile actually kind of reasonable in the matchup. A lot of these combo decks, it's not great. I don't think I'd want the full 4 in. I want to be fighting different fights.
It's not great, but when you talk about dead cards, it's not the top of the list.
Right.
Which means there's a reason, I agree, you might end up keeping it in. You know, is it better or worse than Lightning Helix? Reasonable question.
Better than Supreme Verdict, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's better than Sphinx's Revelation, but then again, so is...
Yeah, what isn't?
Yeah.
Players drawing up their opening hands. I spy a Lightning Helix, at least one still in Jim's deck. Ultimately, Jeskai is just that glorified blue burn deck, so you have to leave in some of those elements.
And he's going to take them all again.
The Helix already feels like one.
Not enough burn to be a glorified burn deck.
Right. We're more like getting to fewer Helixes or more.
Just to do the racing plan where you just burn them. That said, burn has a terrible Ironworks combo matchup. Eidolon can play, but then Ironworks plays a bunch of Pyrite spell bombs.
Yeah.
Actually, only 2 spell bombs for Thomas Mathers.
You get the stirrings into them.
Yeah.
Mathers keeping on 7. He's good to go. A lot of very keepable 7s, though, fold if Jim does mulligan into that Stony Silence. Don't got a great look at it, but I think Jim's looking at a 1-lander.
Okay. Deciding on his scry here, yeah.
It looks like there's a Serum Visions and a Logic Knot, though. That can shape up.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming he's on the draw then, because his only land is a fetch land. And
right. Yeah, actually thinking about this, the card would have to be probably literally Stony Silence to think about doing anything but just Serum Visions if you're on the play.
And here we go, game number 3. Darksteel Citadel for Thomas Mathers. No bauble. We'll go back over to Jim. Draws, his Ancestral Vision. That is a tough choice.
I don't know, 1-lander. You really need to hit your land drops. So this is a greedy play by Jim. I suppose he already has Logic Knot, and theoretically, if you hit that land by turn 3, you should be able to knot Mathers off of Ironworks. And if he just finds a land naturally, he gets paid off in a big way.
Jim has a Sphinx's Revelation in his hand, too.
Ugh.
Thomas I know. So Thomas Mathers cast Ancient Stirrings.
He's got a lot of stuff in his deck, which makes it feel like, why is Lightning Helix still in his hand?
Krarkland Ironworks the find for Mathers.
Jim's going to have 2 looks at a land for the drop this turn.
Yeah, and Thomas hasn't made any baubles this game.
Jim missed on his first draw.
Hits on the second.
What's it like?
Top 2 cards are Logic Knot, Vendilion Click. I don't know if I want either. I mean, Logic Knot's pretty good here, but lands are also very good.
He already has a Logic Knot, and there's pretty significant diminishing returns on the card.
Yeah.
And he has stuff to do with his mana. He has Snapcaster Mage otherwise.
He still has Sphinx's Revelation. You need a lot more mana to cast that.
You need land drops. I probably pass on both of these.
Yeah, Jim does as well. I'm interested to see if he'll bluff Shock here, just on Spell Snare. The life points in the matchup are very irrelevant. Jim puts it into play tapped, though.
Yeah, Spell Snare doesn't do a ton in the matchup, and we're going into turn 3 as well.
No, it's like Ichor, Wellspring, and Mind Stone.
Yeah.
Terrarian for Mathers, and he also makes Inventor's Fair. And he'll just pass. Very slow start for the Ironworks deck. Makes me think he was looking at some Guttural Response or Nature's Claim in Thomas's hand. He's just kind of by process of elimination.
Right, yeah, there's so much stuff that you can just cast, and most of the deck is Chromatic Stars, Ichor Wellsprings.
Yeah. You sometimes see, and you do see one defense grid in Ironworks.
It's a fine one. Jim continues to be paid off. Finds that third land, island.
And Thomas's hand just not working out. Goes through Terrarian for 2 mana. Usually you'll see green-red. I don't know. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Likely spending it on colorless spells.
Girper Aether Grid, the play from Mathers.
Presumably, the idea is this is counterplay against Stony Silence, though
it's
pretty mopey in the matchup.
We'll see what I'm interested in, whether this even earns Jim's Logic Knot.
I don't think I would counter here. I mean, it does stop Jim from closing the game with his creatures if Vendilion clicks his Snapcaster Mages, which is a consideration. He does have a Snapcaster Mage in hand. So if you spend that Logic Knot, he's kind of out of cards that matter.
Looks like he's going to cast Logic Knot, delving 1, so counter unless Thomas pays 2. This was close.
I would consider this a win for Thomas, getting the Logic Knot with the grid.
So especially Jim knows about Clan Ironworks. And Engineered Explosives just cast on 0 for Thomas. This will mean he'll start gaining life off Inventor's Fair because he cast it this turn.
Powerful stuff.
Jim just passes, no land 4.
And it turns off Snapcaster Mage Logic Knot. Would have been very greedy for Jim to Snapcaster Serum Visions there, especially because the Ancestral is coming off suspend on the following turn.
Activates Inventor's Fair. Okay. Oh, never mind. No, taps for 4, makes Inventor's Fair, makes Clan Ironworks. No activation there. Had a second fairy, playing 3, so they are legendary. No counterplay here for Jim. The Logic Knot's gone.
Yeah, and Thomas doesn't really have the backup he needs to go off with the Ironworks, though getting the Ironworks on the table is much more significant than landing the grid.
Now, Jim's hand is Lightning Helix, 2 Snapcaster Mages, Sphinx's Revelation. He's got 1 other in there.
He's about to draw 4 cards.
Yeah, things will be fine when he untaps. But Thomas is going to stress out that he makes 6 colorless. Let's go.
Ooh, that's scary.
And we'll see, yeah. There's no way for him to activate this Inventor's Fair with 6 colorless, unfortunately for Thomas. I think we might have seen a blunder. You can't. You need 3 artifacts to activate Inventor's Fair.
Yeah.
If you sack 2 of them, you only have 2 artifacts. So there's not a way to get 4 mana for Inventor's Fair and activate Inventor's Fair. And I've been victim of this too, forgetting that Inventor's Fair trigger requires you to have 3 active artifacts in play. Thomas, I think, has forgotten this as well.
It's not a weird thing where you can activate a declaration and then pay cost after the fact?
Maybe.
I know there's some weird rulings like that. There's some stuff with affinity and paying costs, so
okay,
it
what you're saying does work.
It kind of depends on how you announce it. It's a weird segment of the rules.
So what I could do is say, I am tapping my Inventor's Fair. I am paying for it. I shall now sacrifice artifacts to pay for it. And it really now depends on what Thomas said verbally. Now, we don't have audio here, so that's why we are not entirely sure. That's why the table judge is going to deal with this call. It really depends on what Thomas said. If he said, and activate, fair, pay for it, There are a lot of ways that Thomas could have presented this that it's completely fine.
Yeah.
And so we're going to get a ruling from the judge here on what was said and whether or not this is acceptable.
Yeah, this is a thing. A chromatic star and affinity was a big thing in that standard environment. We're like, I'll make a blue with this, but it's also an artifact to reduce the cost of my Thoughtcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it's weird. It's very counterintuitive. I barely understand it myself. But yeah, the communication is kind of what it comes up to here.
All right, so right now we have a ruling judge call here in Game 3 of Thomas Mathers versus Jim Davis. Tough one, depending on the Inventor's Fair. When we know the ruling, we'll go ahead and share it with you. I do think this ruling is pretty consequential. If Thomas loses this judge call, it feels like he's going to lose the game.
Well, sacrificing 3 permanents to no
right.
gain, yeah, that's a pretty significant cost.
Right. As it is, even what the line he's on, even if he's sacrificing it, he can sacrifice fair for any artifact. He only has 2 mana floating. It's not guaranteed. He's not out of the woods here either. If he's trying to assemble Scrap Trawler, Jim still has a Lightning Helix in his hand.
Right. Yeah, the line looks pretty ambitious here. Seems like the play should have been Ironworks go. You know, you're weak to Jim having a Stony Silence or a Wear Tear on the following turn.
I mean, what he's worried about, right, is there's that Ancestral Visions on 1.
Jim's drawing 4 cards.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I got to do something. Jim's going to... I don't want to play against Jeskai once he has a full grip again. Yeah. And I get it.
Really tough spot.
Yeah, so right now the judge is ruling on it, and we'll come back with a ruling when we have it. I'm surprised, though, with Thomas Mathers' hand, it was a slow start.
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of wonder what's left over. If possibly he's, for some reason, sandbagging the cogs, your Ichor Wellsprings, your Chromatic Stars. I feel like definitely if you have Wellspring, you should have run it out earlier.
Yeah, that would have happened. It was surprising that we had so few Wellsprings and cogs. I mean, we saw there was an Engineered Explosives there. I mean, he could have 2 Inventor's Fairs. He had Stirrings into a Corkland Ironworks, possibly just land flooded.
Yeah. Explosives presumably still in the deck as a way to counterplay if Jim has Rest in Peace.
Yeah, that can work.
Doesn't do too much in the matchup otherwise.
Yeah, keeping Engineer Explosives just to deal with even Search for Azcantas. They are 0 mana artifacts, so
sometimes
they're
you just
fine.
need to buy some time against Snapcaster Mage, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's not the best use of a card, but it comes up in a pinch.
There's an interesting thing in the deck that when you're looping with Scrap Trawler, you really want to have a 0. Now, you prefer it to be Mox Opal.
Right.
But when it's not, Engineer Explosives can do in a pinch. I think the original builds played Everflowing Chalice just for this.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, it's my Mind Stone that also is my 0. Kind of fun. But you actually, I don't think ever really cut all your Engineer Explosives because you actually just need a 5th or 6th 0 in the deck.
Right. Yep. That makes a good amount of sense.
Yeah, so...
The archetype definitely not my cup of tea.
It's a fun one if you really just want to play your own game and sometimes have your opponent play a game.
It seems like if I was interested, I could just play this at a table by myself.
Well, that's how I practice the deck.
That
That
sounds exactly right.
That checks out.
You don't got to convince me of that.
So yeah, we saw Jim's Logic Knot was spent on Gear per Aether Grid, so those would come in out of the board for Thomas Mathers. So despite the fact that I like this deck, I'm still not sure whether this deck is going to stick around in the meta that long. We found a spot in the meta, and Zach Elsick certainly did, so did Matt Nass, winning 2 Grand Prix with it, where it's really been performing. I don't think this deck's good in every meta. When people start becoming ready for it, I'm not in.
Yeah, the list has become tighter, but also you were really taking advantage. One of the big things is that very few people are playing Death Shadow anymore.
Right.
That the Jeskai decks or the blue control deck, and they're very light on counter spells. Those things are shifting. That makes the meta more hostile to you.
Yeah, and just on its surface, yeah, it is a bit of a one-trick deck. There's a lot of ways to hate to work against it.
Right.
But we do see 3 copies into day 2. Thomas Mathers is at 9-2 right now. He's been having a good tournament.
Yeah. You start to see more Stonies. Start to see more Rest in Peace. That makes it really frustrating for the deck. But sounds like we got a ruling, so we'll be getting to our match in just a second here. All
right, the ruling is that it was not declared as an activation, though the 3 artifacts were sacrificed. So we're going to go back to the match. He has 6 colorless mana, but as he does not have 3 artifacts in play, he cannot activate Inventor's Fair. Let's go back down to the match. And I don't know how much more game we're going to have here. We'll see if Thomas... This is a blow for sure. We'll see if he can recover. He casts Scrap Trawler, and looks like Mox Opal.
I think, is that Masterpiece Engineered Explosives? One of those two cards.
And so he does is now he's going to do it correctly.
All right.
So then he puts them in place as activate Inventor's Fair, sack 2 to pay.
And that'll leave him with 1 floating here.
Yep.
So probably getting like Chromatic Star, I would imagine, is the find.
Remember, Jim's Lightning Helix still plays here too.
Yeah, this would be the window where you want to tag that Scrap Trawler.
Depends on the last card in Thomas's hand as to what he wants to get. Ideally, you'd like to get Iker Wellspring here to try to start some sort of chain, but he's a mana short.
Right. That's why I'm thinking Chromatic Star.
Yeah, because he can cast it.
Right.
I don't disagree. I don't like it. That's a low probability line. And Jim gonna Lightning Helix with the Inventor's Fair on the stack. So now it's gonna change what Thomas gets. Helix on Scrap Trawler. So Tom sacrifices it in response. Goes up to 3 colors. He'll get to get something back. Don't think he has any 2s. Are we just looking at that Terrarian?
Yeah, I think that's the best one available currently.
All right. And there's still an Inventor's Fair trigger on the stack, so he'll get to search up another artifact. Some desire to get an Iker Wellspring here. That's not bad.
With this playing out, there's a good chance he's looking at just getting another Scrap Trawler to replace the first one.
Yeah, he'll get back Engineered Explosives. Okay. That makes sense. So he's going to go find another Scrap Trawler. He'll find Iker Wellspring. Okay. Feeling a choke on mana, which is why he's getting back the Engineered Explosives. Iker Wellspring will be a draw 2.
This could be pretty powerful if the last card is another Scrap Trawler. 1 card left over in hand.
If that's the last card in his hand, then I completely agree. That's a great play.
That would also kind of make sense the way the game's played out. There's not really a compelling reason to expose those in the earlier game.
Yeah, this would all make sense. Is that last card another Scrap Trawler? We'll see. Engineer Explosives. Sacrifice it to 5 Ryan? I think it is. It is. There's the second Scrap Trawler.
All right.
Thomas down to 0, makes Iker Wellspring, draws. Is he gonna recover here? It's looking like it. Iker Wellspring.
Get the Terrarian back. Yeah, he's going off. He's drawing
a card.
Making mana.
Okay.
Looks like Chromatic Star was a pickup too.
Sure, Terrarian, sack, up to 3, get back the explosives. He should be at 3 colorless. Jim's saying, yeah, you announced it. Gets a card. Explosives again. So colorless mana is going to be pretty abundant here.
Yep.
And now he has found a Mox Opal that he can start recurring. So he'll make some green in case he draws into Stirrings mid-combo.
Gives him good redraws. Inevitably, you start making some red mana, so you set up for your Pyrite Spellbomb win.
Chromatic Star. Draws and gets back Opal. So mana's not a concern. Now it's just cards, or if he can find a Mirror Retriever.
I want to say I spot that in the hand. No, it's Buried Rune, I think. This Buried Rune is not very good. If it's Mirror Retriever, it is.
Yeah, I think he's already made his land drop, which means...
the second Inventor's Fair, I believe, was the land for the turn.
Yeah, which means we are out. So now Scrap Trawler gets sacrificed to get back Iker Wellspring. Can't tap that Mox Opal anymore. Hold on, he doesn't have 3 artifacts. Back up.
And now we just have
Ironworks
Opal.
Nope, no mana. Get that red symbol out of here.
There
we go, now you can do it.
Not like there's a shortage of artifacts in there.
Rick reaches right back for the red symbol. He cast the Iker Wellspring. I don't think he drew off it.
Yeah, and he made the mana. Is that a mistrigger at this point?
No, you can make mana at instant speed. The trigger could still be on the stack.
That's true. Yeah, pretty easy for a judge to rule that not enough has happened at that point.
Well, what? You can make mana. It's not even illegal.
Well, like responding to a trigger without announcing the trigger, like you understand why there would be confusion.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. He missed it. The question is whether or not it's too late.
Yeah.
And Iker Wellspring, he's now out of redraws.
Yeah,
Ryan will see if he misses.
There's no trawler online anymore.
Needs to find an Emrakul. He's got the mana for it. If he just finds Emrakul, he can cast it.
Yeah. Currently at 14 floating as the Ironworks. Finds a Wormcoil Engine. Wormcoil Engine, mana neutral when you have an Ironworks if you just want to sacrifice the whole thing. It's a little bit silly when you don't have a trawler online. But yeah, locks in Wormcoil Engine. Casting that for 6. Casting the Worm. And mana pool emptying. Yeah, just Wormcoil Engine is all the payoff. So left with Ironworks, Wormcoil Forest.
And about 40 cards in the graveyard.
Yeah.
Oh, more like 20, but now Jim reloads.
I'm an Ironworks novice, but did we have to sacrifice that second trawler?
If you wanted to keep trying to combo, you did.
Okay.
Your other option was to stop.
He was out at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you wanted to lay up and try again next turn. The issue is that trying again next turn with Ironworks doesn't do very much. All you do is draw one card.
Yeah, it's not starting for much.
You get another land drop, and if that's the difference, then that's your big reason to reset. But with this fresh hand of cards, I hope Jim can beat a Wormcoil Engine. That should be possible.
I mean, Wormcoil's pretty good against his deck. I think he has some combination of interaction. If he still has Path to Exile, that's easy.
Yeah, I mean, you can always block it with Snapcasters, or he can just take 6 for a while. Eventually he has to answer it.
Right. It being +4 cards, that makes it a lot easier. You just start throwing burn spells at it, clean up the worms, what have you.
Bolt and Snap Bolt. Sure. 2 worms left.
That's 4 mana of worms.
I do like the Wormcoil Engine is mana neutral. That's nice.
Doesn't matter a ton if Thomas can't produce another scrap trawler, though. I already been through some of those, so that decreases the odds.
Yeah, there we go. There's the actual worm token. There's one. I
I
assume the other one's by it. Oh, that's not the right worm.
Yeah, it's the left worm.
Thanks.
Buried Rune was the land for turn, but
we can get another Wormcoil Engine.
This can get back Scrap Trawler, but you don't have enough to go off from there.
No, he's going to have to wait again for a bit. The question is whether or not these Wormcoil tokens will buy him enough time to actually set up a combo again.
They're less about buying time and more about having a startup mana.
Jim, another Snapcaster Mage and a Lightning Helix. He'll shoot down one of the worms. I think he took the lifelink one out. Thomas will sack it and activate Buried One, getting back Wormcoil Engine.
All right.
I'm so into this.
He
Scrap Trawler.
I believe Trawler to be
wanted to go for another worm.
I believe Trawler to be correct by by a country mile.
Yeah, I mean,
but, you know.
for sure.
All right, do we have a combo now?
We're getting closer. Here's Ancient Stirrings. Despite all his extra cards, Jim's hand doesn't do much.
A Darksteel Citadel will be a good starting point. That's worth 3 mana.
We're still not ready for Sphinx's Revelation, Ryan. Soon.
Someday.
Someday that card will do something.
Tough stirrings here. We've been through the Internet Explosives, Mox Opal. Finds Defense Grid.
Sure.
I don't know that we're setting up to have a Defense Grid. I think that is just an artifact that is going to be sacrificed to generate mana at a later time.
That's probably true.
Theoretically, it can play, but Thomas working from a pretty diminished board.
Yeah, if there's a Scrap Tron play, anything that's a 2-mana artifact is reasonable.
Ooh, big swing. Yeah. If I'm Jim, I'm going to entertain the line of double blocking with Snapcaster Mages.
Sure.
Yeah, he does. And that worm was worth 2 mana for Thomas. I think that's actually a win for Jim.
That worm traded with a bolt, a snapcaster, a helix, and another snapcaster.
That's not stuff that matters.
Snapcasters matter, don't they?
No. Jim's plan is to win the game inevitably. He also just drew 3 cards off in Central Division.
Right.
I think that 2 mana for Thomas mattered a lot more than whatever Jim's up to. But,
Big draw by Jim. Search for Escanta.
Jim's hand does look pretty empty. Yes.
Okay, Escanta and Sphinx's Revelation on the way.
We're about to see a 6-mana Jace's Ingenuity.
Yeah.
Life, another resource that does not really matter for Jim.
Defense grid. Well, if you want Revelation, you better do it now.
Yeah.
Sphinx's Revelation is never cast for a reasonable amount of cards in Modern. I mean, like, this is... Okay, at least this is 3. But we sure paid a lot for that.
You don't want it in your opener. That much is for sure. And it's a rev for 3 in a situation where you'd much rather be having some kind of interaction for either the Ironworks or even the defense grid, realistically.
Cryptic picked up by Jim this turn. That's a spell that plays.
Now he has Cryptic and looks like a Logic Knot hanging out near the back of the hand as well.
All right. And this is a good one. He has a Field of Ruin. I think he's going to write... Yeah, he's going to Field of Ruin that Buried Ruin.
How many basic lands do we have in our
2.
Ironworks deck?
2
All
forests. Right. I was thinking the same thing. Not many. And actually what Thomas is going to do is in response, he's going to sack the Buried Ruin to use it with that defense grid.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Clock up top's accurate. I think that's going to come into play here, Ryan.
Jim is going to have a real hard time winning this game.
Yeah. And I also think he can stall out Thomas.
Yeah, feeling like we might be entering draw territory. Jim able to deploy the Search for Escanta and has Logic Knot backup.
Right, he'll counter Iker Wellspring.
Yeah, I like firing off the Logic Knot at spell. Wellspring also an above average one. It's 2 redraws.
See him double A3 just in case Thomas wanted to sacrifice. Aether Hub for Thomas. Chromatic Star says go. Jim will get to transform, search for Escanta if he would like. Imagine he would. I don't think he's aware of the clock here. Transforms. So Jim is going to be turn 0. 8 lands in play. He says go. Thomas turn 1.
Cognizance of the round clock is not Jim Davis's brand. But here we are, turn 1.
I don't think he can win from 21. Jim only gets 2 more turns. There's no way.
Yeah.
I'm not sure Thomas can win. Jim is in territory we can Cryptic and Escanta each turn.
Right. Or if he has 2 Cryptics, that can be backbreaking. Ooh, it's like Vendilion Click plus Cryptic Command is the action available here.
Well, here's Mendelian Click. We see Scrap Trawler, some lands. We'll take the Trawler.
Looks like Mox Opal plus Basic Forest.
Ooh, the second Basic Forest is there. We could have Field of Ruined and it would have blanked.
That definitely informs the decision of, as we saw, the Berry Ruin being sacrificed in response. Yeah, with that Scrap Trawler leaving the hand, Thomas is going to have an even harder time setting up. That's the 3rd Trawler. 2 in the graveyard. That one on the bottom of the library. The Mox Opal and a sacrificing of a Chromatic Star.
All right.
Looks like an Ironworks was picked up. That one doesn't do anything. Redundant Ironworks only matters if you have a Scrap Trawler online.
Right.
Pyrite Spellbomb as well. I mean, you can tag the Vendilion Click. It doesn't matter at the stage of the game we're in. I don't think that Jim's going to be able to close it with 2 attacks. Not from 21.
Thomas Mathers will make Pirate Spellbomb. And he'll go for Krark-Clan Ironworks. Jim will just let this happen.
Yeah. I mean, he just had the mana. You could counter this one and bounce the first one, but I don't think that really matters. You save that Cryptic Command in case the 4th Scrap Trawler shows up.
All right. So pass Escanta End step by Jim finds lightning bolt.
I guess you do kind of want to close. There was a spell snare there, which can block an Iker
Yeah,
Wellspring as a redraw, but that doesn't really matter. And, you know, it looks like that's the second lightning bolt. Maybe we're drawing to something.
Thomas is at 18 on the attack.
Functional 12, you know, 2 Lance Cryptic. It's not going to be enough. You can make an argument for asking for the concession, but I think that's about the best you can do.
This late in the tournament, I'd be surprised if he got one.
Yeah.
They are too close to the top 8 for that.
Yep.
And if he end step has Kantas into maybe more bolt, another bolt, draws a Snapcaster, we're close. I still don't think it's there. Also, Pyrite Spellbomb can shoot down Vendilion Click if things get close.
Yep.
Yeah, turn 4 on Thomas. Jim will activate as Kanta, finding Serum Visions. But yeah, Jim is turn 4.
Yeah, if this is untimed, I believe that Jim has Thomas in the squeeze, but these are
Yeah.
timed rounds. That's how tournament magic works.
And Jim spent there was a lot of clock spent earlier in the round that could have been preserved.
Yep.
Two bolts, Thomas to 12. Jim's turn 4. Draw Serum Visions.
Yeah.
Draws Lightning Helix.
Couple Lance to the bottom.
You could Cryptic to draw the Lightning Helix. Or he'll cast Serum Visions to draw the Lightning Helix.
That was the draw. That's what he has.
Yeah. Surgical Extraction. He'll bin those. It's just not enough. He's close. One more turn, I think he could do it.
Mm-hmm.
Attacks. Thomas will just shoot it. Looks like he wants the draw.
Yeah. He's clutching that Mox Opal there.
Well,
that's Spellbomb mana.
I guess he has one more turn to try to combo, and Thomas is wondering if there's any top deck that does it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
realistically, Jim could just show Thomas the Cryptic command, and I think that seals it. I suppose, I don't know, we have the mana now with this threshold of artifacts that you redraw off the Mind Stone. Maybe it could be Scrap Trawler plus Mirror Retriever. Does that do it? I think that might do it.
What was it?
If he uses the Mind Stone and then draws the combination of Scrap Trawler and a Mirror Retriever with the 2 draws. Because then you force the Cryptic command on one, and then you have the other to set up again.
And that's what he's doing. He sacks Pirate Spellman to draw, sacks Mind Stone to draw. This is turn 5 for Thomas Mathers. It's the last chance for anyone to win. Iker Wellspring's in here.
That's fine. It's a mana neutral redraw. Draws 2 cards, in fact.
Yeah, you're right. Scrap Trawler and Mirror Retriever should do it.
It's like Buried Rune. Ooh,
all right.
Buried Rune gets back Scrap Trawler.
So he'll do that.
Jim's been holding on to a Cryptic command for a while. This is not going to be good. It's going to take something plus this.
Well, he has 5 more mana to work with. So that actually can cast both Scrap Trawler and Mirror Retriever.
Yeah, you would need to have it.
You can cast Scrap Trawler and Iker Wellspring. That's might be a Mirror Retriever.
Yeah, could be anything. But there's only one thing you want it to be.
Jim just has 1 Cryptic. Yeah. And Jim may have gotten a little aggressive on his own good. You know, he scryed a Surgical Extraction to the bottom to try to find what I think was some burn to try to argue for a draw. If he loses due to that decision, that's all on him.
He also passed on a Spell Snare for one of those Lightning Bolts.
Yeah. Iker Wellspring from Thomas. In the extra turns, Jim was trying a Desperation 21 points of damage. He could have locked up the draw. Mm-hmm. We'll see if he's punished.
Yeah, Thomas still needs some help, but...
Yeah, it's not... Well, they know there's a Scrap Trawler in Thomas's hand, so yeah, Jim lets Iker Wellspring resolve.
Yeah.
Thomas casts Terrarian.
All right, it's another redraw. That's scary.
And it makes mana. We're still going.
Mm-hmm.
Try and sacrifice 2 colorless. Draw a card.
What we got?
Another Terrarian, it looks like.
It's a good one.
Sure, here's some more mana.
Jim's going to be deliberate. He wants to make sure he fires off the Cryptic Command at a good time, but he already knows about Scrap Trawler. He just has to save it for that.
Yeah.
Now, the posturing here helps sell that he has 2 points of interaction, but this is turn 5 of turns, you know.
Thomas is going to go for it.
Yeah.
So 3 colors now. Here's a Scrap Trawler for Thomas.
Got a Cryptic here, Jim.
I think so. Suppose counter draw.
Yes.
What about counter bounce Vendilion Click?
That's something, I don't know how well the timing that could work out to catch something. Because if Thomas sacrifices the Wellspring to try to draw to something, he draws, he has a mana floating, he has priority again.
You'd have to in response, yeah. I don't know that he'll ever have a window.
Right. And if Jim just redraws into a Cryptic Command or a Logic Knot...
Yeah, the redraw is better.
I think that does it.
Okay. Counter draw. Yep, Jim goes for the card. Now Thomas is going to keep trying. 2 mana, sacrifices Wellspring. If he can draw into a Mere Retriever, he gets Mind Stone. That can cycle, but it costs a ton of mana to do it.
Yeah, steep investment.
It's just -3 to cycle it.
Yeah.
I think that's his only redraw left. Yeah, we're down to 1. Draw a card. Mere Retriever still alive.
I think it's junk at this point.
And we're done. There we go. And Thomas has nothing. So that, Jim, wait. Before you pass turn, I'm going to activate this and show you a negate, and we're
Will
okay.
you concede to this negate?
No.
Yeah, forget about this. They're going to draw or they're not.
All right. So, Thomas, a great